Welcome to Coffee with Carmelo. My name is Siobhan. I'm the business developer here at United Professional Engineering. I'm with our president and owner, Carmelo Giglio. Carmelo, tell us how you got into concrete restoration and into the condo world.
Yeah, so when I started out after college, I joined a local structural engineering company, and there we were doing a lot of structural design work. And coincidentally, or in parallel, they did concrete repair work. And this is back in 1999 when, you know, it was still a bit of a wild west in that area. And that at that time frame, there weren't a lot of engineers, to the best of my knowledge, doing a lot of concrete repair work. It was sort of an industry that was still developing. But yeah, the company that I worked for, we were doing structural design. That was my main interest. But coincidentally, the most qualified person to do concrete repair work is a structural engineer. They understand structures, and they understand structural design, and they understand what happens when the structure breaks down by corrosion and spalling, and how to do the repair. And when you do a repair, that you remove concrete and the load paths change, it becomes very complicated. And so the most qualified person to do the work is a structural engineer. And so coincidentally, we were getting into concrete repair work, and that's where I started learning about it. And I guess coincidentally, that most of the work was mainly condo work. So you have private sector or public sector, and it's all private sector work. And the companies that I work for, that's what they did. So that's basically how I got into it. And we were doing a lot of structural design, but we started doing concrete repair work for with various condos in the area, learning about local contractors, et cetera, and developing, sort of a know-how with them, et cetera, on what to do and how to do it. Again, back then it was still kind of a bit of a no man's land. And so it was an interesting to know, like 26 years later, where I'm at today, it's significantly different, especially since Surfside collapse. It is a lot different. I think things have gotten a lot more professional, and I think a lot more complicated as well, with the whole dynamic with condos, or the cost dynamic too. The cost that associations are having to pay to do the work. So, but yeah, that's how I got into concrete repair, through the people that I work for. And so I've just kept honing that craft, and where I am today.
And that led you to the condo world, right? So
Well,
you're like one of
the
them.
condo world was the people that I worked for were doing mainly condo work. In the structural design world, there's primarily, nobody really knows about this, but structural engineers, that guys that do bridge design are bridge design engineers. Most of the time, the two don't mix. So you're either doing bridge design or general structures, meaning, like the multi-story buildings, et cetera. So, but you don't typically have an office, or let's say one engineer that does bridge design and buildings. It's not common. It's out there, but not a lot. So commonly you see people working on buildings and not so much bridges. So that's generally it. So the people I work for were working, with condos, and it's kind of what I learned. And condos have their own, I would say, complexity due to the number of people involved. It's one of the challenges with condos is just you have multiple owners, and so it's challenging. But meaning multiple owners there's multiple people on a board, so you're dealing with multiple clients, if you will. But not to go too far off on a tangent. But yeah, that's how I essentially got to concrete repair and working with condos.
And that brought us here to United Professional Engineering, established since 2005.
Right.
And you've been serving condominiums since the start, since inception.
Yep. My foundation was always structural design. And to this day, I believe that's the most important knowledge. Even if you're doing concrete repair work, you got to understand structures and how they perform. And so that was always my foundation. I've just continued to build our client base doing concrete repair work for various reasons. And yeah, so that's where we are today.
Well, thank you so much for that insight.
Sure.
For more about condos and engineering, stay tuned for the next Coffee with Carmelo.